Which Dynasty players have increased the most in value over the last month? We're talking about that in today's video. Real quick, guys, 70 to 75% of you who watch these videos are not subscribed. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. It's effortless. It takes no effort at all. It helps us grow, help us get to 800 before the end of November. And today we're talking about Dynasty risers. It's very, very important for us Dynasty players to keep tabs on the market. Who's moving up, who's moving down, when to buy low, when to sell high. We're talking about just risers in today's video. There will be a video about fallers coming up soon in just a couple of days. Starting off with the quarterback position, we have Drake May, who's moved up, according to Keep Trade Cut, from QB 16 to QB 12. Now, only 4 spots, but when you're already in the top 15 or so, moving up 4 spots is pretty significant. I don't know if Drake May gets enough credit just how good he's been this year. You can make an argument that he's been, the second best rookie quarterback. I know it's very early, and maybe that's why we're not hearing it. And, he's kind of rivaling a little bit. Here's what I'll say. If you look at his game log, he's played in 5 games. He's started 4. He's really only played a complete 3 games complete, right? One of the games he started, he got knocked out in the beginning, only played 30% of the snaps. If you look at those 3 games and you extrapolate that to a 17-game season, again, small sample size, but he's on pace for over 4,100 yards, 34 touchdowns, and over 850 yards rushing, guys. That's insane. I think that's insane, and we're not really seeing enough talk about how good Drake May has been in the first 4 games that he started of the year. I think we've hit gold here. If you drafted him, he could have, by the end of the year, the second best rookie quarterback year. Honestly, he could have the best rookie quarterback year, even over Jaden Daniels, if he's going to continue on this pace. If he's going to continue on this pace of over 4,100 yards, 34 touchdowns, and over 850 yards rushing. I mean, you just look at Jaden Daniels, who's been fantastic, and this is no slight on Jaden Daniels. He's on pace for about just under 3,700 yards, 17 passing touchdowns. That's what he's on pace for passing-wise. Obviously, the interceptions are low. Rushing-wise, he's on pace for 867 yards and about 7.5 to 8 rushing touchdowns. That's very similar to what Drake May is doing. I know I'm going on a rant here about Drake May, but damn, he's been good. He's been good. So not lucky, but good thing if you drafted him. Another rookie quarterback who's moving up, Bo Nix. Again, 5 spots, which is significant when you're already in the top 20, moving from QB 20 to QB 15. Bo Nix, to this point, has been the second best rookie quarterback over Caleb Williams, over anyone else. Now, we'll see where that is at the end of the season. Bo Nix has exceeded expectations. Whether you think he's good or not, I don't care. The guy has exceeded expectations. He just has. He's on pace for a pretty good year, 3,300 yards passing, about 15 passing touchdowns, and then it's his rushing work. Which I think is surprising us a little bit. He's on pace for over 550 rushing yards with he has 4 rushing touchdowns on the season with over 7. So he's on pace for 550 rushing yards, over 21 total touchdowns, and 3,300 passing yards. That's exceeding expectations. And you could see him getting better. You could just see him getting more comfortable and getting better. You look at his game log over the last month or so. He's thrown for over 200 yards in every 4 of the last 5 games. He has 2 or more passing touchdowns in 3 of the last 5 games. So Bo Nix, I think you're pleasantly surprised, and this guy's going to be around. He's going to be just good enough to be around, in my opinion. So I think you're pretty happy. A lot of people were fading Bo Nix until the end of the first round or even second round in Superflex, which is crazy. Even if he's a top 15 quarterback, that's incredible value in a Superflex league. And I believe, I'm just double checking this here, I believe he's QB 13 in points per game to start the year. That's awesome. Tua from QB 24 to QB 19. Obviously Tua coming back from what we thought could be a career-ending injury. I think this is kind of fair value for Tua and where he should be. Tua is an interesting one, even though he led the league in passing yards last year. He threw for 30 touchdowns. He's surrounded by amazing weapons in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Achane, an offensive-minded head coach. Even though he had all of that last year, he wasn't really a difference maker at the position. He really wasn't. He was QB9 in total points, QB19 in points per game. Like, that's not really a difference maker. I think this is kind of where he belongs. I think we should view him more as a QB2 in a Superflex league than anything else. I'm fine with Tua as my QB2. But I also don't mind moving off for him for a guy with a little bit more upside. So I think it's fair where Tua is. And then Russell Wilson, from QB 42 to 29, obviously over the last month or so, he's taken over that job. And honestly, he looks better than expected. He looks a lot better than I expected him to look. Basically, he's played in 2 games this year, right? He's played in 2 games this year. He's averaging 270 yards passing in those 2 games, which is over 4,600 yards. He has three touchdowns in those 2 games, which would put him at above 25 touchdowns. And he does have a rushing touchdown in there as well. So if you get that kind of production from Russell Wilson and you bought low on him when he lost his job, then you're looking at ideally your QB3. But a QB3 that's probably going to give you, QB2 production if he continues this. Moving along to the running back position, Joe Mixon holy crap, Joe Mixon has been amazing. Better than he was ever on Cincinnati, which is kind of crazy. And maybe it kind of tells you a little bit more about Cincinnati than anything else, right? Joe Mixon has been absolutely insane this year. In half PPR scoring, Joe Mixon, even though he missed 3 games, is the QB 10 overall and the QB3 RB3 in points per game. And it's just a good reminder, guys, that we undervalue these older running backs every single year. Go look in March or April of every single year. You're going to find all these running backs from like RB 25 to 40 that are like, holy crap, these guys are super undervalued, because if they give me, we need to start approaching the running back position, I keep saying this, from a year-to-year basis. We need to stop looking at beyond the coming year for most running backs, except for the top guys like Bijan, Breece Hall, Gibbs, and guys like this. If you can give me a top 5, a top 10 season this year, that's more valuable than all these other running backs that are ranked. Like, that's more valuable than Jonathan Brooks. I'm sorry, but it is. I don't care if Jonathan Brooks is young. If Jonathan Brooks gives me 4 years of RB24 production and Mixon gives me 1 of a top 5 running back, I'm taking Mixon because he wins me leagues and he makes a difference. It's more valuable than guys like Bucky Irving. And I guarantee you're going to see running backs that are going to fall during the offseason to this range. And you're going to have guys like Bucky Irving, guys like Chase Brown, guys like maybe Chase Brown's the wrong answer, Braylon Allen be ranked over these guys. And there's no reason for that, because we know what these other guys, Derrick Henry is another one. Derrick Henry was like the RB 30 or 40 in the offseason, right? Why? That doesn't make sense. So just a reminder during the offseason to buy low on these older guys who are being severely undervalued. Naji Harris is the next one here. He's surprised me about how good he's been. He's an interesting one because he's on his final year of his contract. If he continues this way, I think someone's going to give him a shot. And what if he has like a Joe Mixon type of like career where, he goes to a team which is maybe just better at designing the run game and schemes in the run, in their run scheme, and he just becomes a more productive back. He's an interesting one. I'm still a little bit hesitant that, the last 3 weeks are a little bit more of like an abnormality than like the new norm for Najee, but we'll see. We'll see how the next, few weeks progress for Najee. That being said, I think you have a solid RB2 if you have Naji on your team, and you should be valuing him that way. And he's a prime sell high candidate if he continues this sell high during the offseason, because he probably will be changing teams. Chuba Hubbard from RB33 to RB23. Chuba Hubbard's been awesome this year. I think he's the RB17 in points per game. I think it's going to continue. Obviously, they just gave him the contract, which is going to make things interesting. I think Chuba Hubbard is going to be a problem for your Jonathan Brooks shares. I think it's going to, make that backfield a little bit frustrating at times. That being said, the one advantage Chuba Hubbard has over Jonathan Brooks is we've seen Chuba Hubbard be good. We've seen him be good, and we haven't seen Jonathan Brooks be good. There's a chance that Jonathan Brooks is just not good. Like that's not out of the realm of possibilities. Chuba Hubbard this year has 773 total yards from scrimmage, right? In his 9 games. And really, like, his first couple of games, he didn't even really get going. He's on pace for over 1,400 total yards. He has 6 total touchdowns, which is a 11 touchdown pace. He has 26 catches in his 9 games, which will put him at like around 50 catches, about 50 catches per game. He has that advantage of, like, he's just looked good. He's averaged 5 yards a carry in his career. So just be worried about Jonathan Brooks. If we're expecting him to just absolutely take over this job, I don't think it's happening this year. And there's a chance that Chuba Hubbard's just better than Jonathan Brooks. And I think we need to talk about that maybe in the offseason. Tyrone Tracy from RB36 to RB20. I love Tyrone Tracy. He's taken over that job, and deservedly so. He's deservedly taken over that job. You just look at Tyrone Tracy over the last 5 weeks since he's basically taken over that job. He's been awesome, man. I actually think he can provide more in the passing game as well, that he really hasn't provided in the passing game. Like, I think he gives more value in the passing game. He's done well. He has a big 6 catch game, but other than that, he has 1, 6, 3, 2, and 1 catches in his 5 games as a starter. And I think he could do more, to be honest. I really do think he can do more, but you just look at his box score. He's been awesome. I will say this about Tyrone Tracy. If the Giants have a change in coaching staff, Tyrone Tracy will be a prime sell high candidate for me, because I think he's going to continue to rise. I think he'll get into like potentially the top 15 if he continues what he's doing. I think he's comfortably in the top 20 during the offseason. And we see this every year. Damian Pierce, Antonio Gibson. When guys, especially these lower drafted guys, when the situations change for them, right, and the coaching staff changes for them, or a new running back comes in or whatever, the team moves on from them, despite how good we think they are, right? And so that would be my worry with Tyrone Tracy if they change coaching staff. So just something to note there. A couple lower tier guys, Isaac Gendo from 69 to 48. I will be interested to see how they use when CMC's back, who they kind of have as like the next guy up. Will it be Jordan Mason or will it be Gendo? I like Gendo. I think he's a good, candidate to have on your team. And, we don't know what CMC is going to be even the rest of this year. What if he gets hurt again? God forbid, we don't know what he's going to be next year. So definitely a guy to hold on to. And then Ray Davis is another guy I really, really like. He just looks good when he runs the ball. James Cook, next year will be his last year on his rookie contract. So, Ray Davis is a guy, I think we could be talking about Ray Davis and getting a couple years out of him. So just a couple of lower tier guys that are moving up. Into the wide receivers, Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers, I will be honest, has surprised me. I didn't think we were going to get this type of production from Zay Flowers. So Zay Flowers this year is on pace for 1,160 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns. He's on pace for 85 catches, which is great numbers. He's also on pace, and don't underrate this, he's also on pace for, let's see here, his rushing work. He's also on pace for 80 rushing yards, which, I think he could do a little bit more in the rushing game. But basically, the dude's on pace for the guy is on pace for 1,250 yards from scrimmage. So I like to see this from Zay Flowers. We see some big games. We see some down games. And honestly, in the Baltimore's offense, it's probably going to continue to be like that. But he will be the best Baltimore receiver I think we've ever seen under the Lamar Jackson era. So in half PPR, Zay Flowers is the wide receiver 19 in points per game. And that kind of exceeds my expectations. I thought of him more of as a top 30 guy, more in this offense, not because of his talent. So it's good to see here. Terry McLaurin. Excuse me, guys. Terry McLaurin is a guy I was telling people to buy low on during the offseason. Basically, and this was even before they drafted Jaden Daniels. And basically, it was under the assumption that they were going to draft a quarterback. Terry McLaurin, he fell to as low as wide receiver 47 during the season, but during the offseason, he was like wide receiver 40. And I was telling people you should probably buy low on him because what if they draft a quarterback and they have the Nico Collins type of effect? We know Terry McLaurin's good, right? Sorry, the CJ Stroud type of effect. We know Terry McLaurin's good. What if that quarterback's good? Well, then Terry McLaurin's going to be very, very good. And it's turning out that way. Ever since, after the first couple of weeks of the season, these guys have been clicking. I think we're seeing a potential career year from Terry McLaurin, who's currently on pace for 1,130 yards, which would be just under his career high, 80 catches, which would be under his career high. So, but you put it all together, I think we're looking at a career year for Terry McLaurin. He's also on pace for 11 touchdowns, which would be by far his best. So great to see. I don't think it's going to change. Jaden Daniels is awesome. Terry McLaurin, yeah, he's a little bit older, but honestly, he still has 2-3 good years in him. He turned 29 this season. I still think we can expect Terry McLaurin to be good for another 2 seasons at the very least. Ladd McConkey from Keep Trade Cut, wide receiver 32 to 21. Ladd McConkey's had his moments. He's been one of the better rookie wide receivers. Honestly, I'm actually going to check this right now. Is Ladd McConkey having a better year than Marvin Harrison Jr.? Ladd McConkey has more catches than Marvin Harrison Jr. He has 5 less yards than Marvin Harrison Jr. and 1 less touchdown. He's almost been just as good. He's basically been just as good as Marvin Harrison Jr. This Chargers offense since their bye week is kind of what I expected from them. People I think were overrating, like, oh my God, they're going to run the ball 50 times and Herbert's going to throw it 10 times a game. Now, to begin the year, it started off that way. I think they were averaging about 22 pass attempts per game. Since then, since the bye week, which makes me believe even more that this is here to stay. Since the bye week, they're 5 games since the bye week. They're averaging 32 pass attempts per game. Justin Herbert has thrown for over 250 yards in 3 straight games, 2 passing touchdowns in back-to-back games. We know Herbert's a good quarterback. Here's my one worry about Ladd McConkey as he inches closer to like a top 20 receiver. I really do think, and this is something to think about, and this is how you have to play Dynasty sometimes, I don't think this team's going to settle on Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston, Josh Palmer as their wide receiver room. And I do think they're going to draft someone or bring someone in, and that will hurt McConkey's value. Even if it makes McConkey better, or, McConkey's just a better receiver than that other player, the perception of it will be that it hurts his value in Dynasty. So keep that in mind with Ladd McConkey. I do expect that to happen. I think he is better suited as that wide receiver too. So just something to keep in mind in there. Keon Coleman from 37 to 29. I was not the biggest Keon Coleman guy. He was starting to come on. You look at his box score the last 3 weeks. Now, unfortunately, he did get hurt. It seems like he might be missing multiple weeks, which sucks because I wanted to see that he was doing the rookie wide receiver development of started off kind of slow, had flashes here and there, and then was starting to come on. 4 for 125, 5 for 70 and a touchdown, and then he gets hurt, unfortunately. So it sucks for Keon Coleman. I hope he can come back and we can kind of see his rookie season develop a little bit more. Excuse me. Josh Downs from Keep Trade Cut, wide receiver 42 to 32. Did you know that Josh Downs is, despite missing 2 games and then kind of being limited in his first game back, he's the wide receiver 25 in total points. Did you know that? I don't think I knew that. And points per game, he's the wide receiver 26, which is kind of crazy to think. That's half PPR. I think there's a chance Josh Downs is just better than Michael Pittman. I think there's a chance. We're going to see him with Flacco. Now, the biggest concern with the Colts and their wide receivers is Anthony Richardson as your quarterback and just how good can you be. So that is something to keep in mind here. Anthony Richardson is going to probably, unless the Colts make the playoffs, is probably going to see the field again. So something to keep in mind there. But I think there's a chance that Josh Downs is just – I think we were underrating Josh Downs in the offseason. He had a good rookie year. And I think it was just overshadowed by the other rookies, Puka Nacua and Tank Dell and stuff like that. He had 70 catches, 771 yards, and 2 touchdowns. We would have been talking about that as like one of the better rookie seasons, 10 years ago or something. That's a really good rookie season. George Pickens from Keep Trade Cut 34 to 20. I'm still a little bit hesitant on George Pickens, and it's mostly because I do think the guy's talented, but what's the quarterback situation? Is Russ the long-term guy? I don't know. Is it Justin Fields? I don't know. If it is Justin Fields, that's not great for George Pickens. We could just be seeing a Terry McLaurin or DJ Moore type of career beginning where it's we know they're good. The fantasy numbers and the raw production is just not there because of the quarterback situation. So, and it took a while for, us to see a big season from DJ Moore or to see a big season from Terry McLaurin. So just keep that in mind with George Pickens. Ricky Pearsall from 53 to 42. I am interested. I think there's a chance that even with the Ayuk injury, we don't see a whole lot of production from Ricky Pearsall. And I'm curious as to what that does to his fantasy value. Because I think we're expecting Ricky Pearsall to have a bigger impact because of the Ayuk injury. I also think there's a chance they just roll out with Debo, Juwan Jennings, Chris Conley, guys like that, because maybe they want to, they trust these guys a little bit more and they want to bring Pearsall on a little bit lower. That being said, I still think Pearsall is a pretty good player. I never understood why there was a huge gap between Pearsall and Leggett and guys like Keon Coleman and Xavier Worthy and Ladd McConkey. And it's these guys have a really good chance of being good too. I am curious to see if he actually drops over the next month if he doesn't start producing. Cedric Tilman is the last wide receiver here. The biggest jump, wide receiver 31 to 46. Here's something I'm learning about fantasy football or dynasty football is when there's these wide receivers who are 3rd, 4th round picks and they don't do anything their first year or 2 in the league. Cedric Tilman did nothing his first year. I'm going to be buying low on them because Cedric Tilman fell super low. He fell to potentially cuttable territory, potentially, here you go, here's a throw in. I'm going to start buying low on these guys and just taking a shot on them, especially guys that I kind of liked. I liked Cedric Tilman coming out of college. I liked him a lot more than Jalen Hyatt. In 2022, his 2022 season, was it 2022? Maybe his 2021 season in college, people were talking about him being the best wide receiver in the country. Then he got hurt in his final year. So these guys that get decent draft capital, round 3, round 4, who are falling out of favor, who are falling to super cheap value, I'm going to start buying low on them and just taking a shot on them. Most of them are not going to hit. Some of them will. Nico Collins, Cedric Tilman. These are guys that, are examples of hitting, right? Kate Otten, into the tight ends here. Kate Otten to Keep Trade Cut 19 to tight end 8. One thing I liked about Kate Otten, even before he was going off, the guy was out there 100% of the snaps. So I like that about him. And now it's just coming to fruition, obviously, with the wide receiver injuries. Kate Otten is one of those process tight ends. If you sold high on one of your tight end 12 heading into the season and bought low on Kate Otten, well, you're reaping the benefits. And you should be doing this with tight ends unless you play in a huge tight end premium. Tight ends really, unfortunately, don't matter too much. So you should be selling high on these guys that are ranked tight end 8 to 12, and then buying low on, getting a piece and having them throw in K-Dot in, and every now and then you're going to hit. Hunter Henry is very interesting. I talked about Drake May. And Drake May's 3 games that basically he started 4 games technically, got knocked out early. And his 3 games that he started and completed. Here's Hunter Henry's pace with Drake May. 107 targets, 102 catches, 1,071 yards, and 6 touchdowns. That's insane. Like, I think we should be potentially buying low on Hunter Henry if we see this kind of production with him. Hunter Henry and Drake May. If we see if we're seeing this kind of production with them, I'm actually going to try and buy low on him right now on the stream. I'm going to see who has Hunter Henry in one of my dynasty leagues. And it's a guy I already have his first round pick. I was going to trade Trey McBride for Hunter Henry in a first, and I was going to be happy with that because I think Hunter Henry, if he keeps up this pace and I get a first round pick, I win that trade. Jonnu Smith's another one. Jonnu Smith, we've seen in the past be a good tight end. Unfortunately, he went to die in New England for 2 years, was it? Yeah, 2 years he went to die in New England. We saw him be decent in Tennessee, get a big contract in New England, went to die with everyone else on that team, went to Atlanta, actually, I think outproduced Kyle Pitts, and now we're seeing him have a decent year for the Dolphins. He's having a decent year for the Dolphins. Here are his last 4 games. And here's what he's on pace for. So his last 4 games, he has 5, 7, 4, and 5 catches. That's on pace for 90 catches. He has 46 yards, 20 yards, 96 yards, and 62 yards. That's on pace for 950 yards, and then he has 1 touchdown in those games. Like, he's doing well, and he's a big part of this offense. And I think Miami really wants a third receiving option. I forget. I'm going to double check now. What kind of contract did Miami give him? They gave him, it was like before free agency type of contract. They have a potential out with him, but I don't know why they would. I think they probably just keep that. It's not like he has a $4.5 million cap hit. I think that's fine for what he's been. So, I don't know. I like Jonnu Smith. I'm starting him in first place in the tight end premium league, and I'm starting him every week. And then David Njoku from 15 to 10. I think it's a lot of it's just because it's all his offense now. And basically, since Amari Cooper's been traded, or the last 3 weeks for Njoku have been pretty good. He has 5 catches, and 10 catches in 3 games. That's an 113 catch pace, 29 yards, 61 yards, and 76 yards here. And that's for good for 950 yards. David Njoku is a good player, and hopefully they get a legit quarterback in there. So that is it, guys. Dynasty Risers. Be on the lookout for Dynasty Fallers, which will be coming up next. Appreciate you all. And we'll catch you all in the next video.